Hi everyone, welcome to today's live. I'm super excited to be doing a new AI and AWS project with you all today. Now, today we're going to be talking about how to chat with your RAG chatbot from the terminal. And this is honestly quite a wild project. I have been loving every single moment with it. And let's dive into it by unlocking our project guide. So let's unlock that project guide. And here are a few details of today's project. Well, difficulty level, we're putting it at pretty spicy today if you are new to commands and AWS CLI, because we're going to be talking with a chatbot over commands instead of the console today. So if you've done the first project in this series on RAG chatbots in Bedrock, you will know that in that first project, we actually talked with our chatbot over like a chat interface. That was awesome. Today though, we're really going to be chatting with it over the command line. So let me show you like a quick 1 minute of what you're going to end up creating. And then we'll dive into the project itself. So let me open up. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm exposing myself now. You can see that these are some commands I ran earlier. And let me show you, like, this is a command that we'll be running, which is asking our RAG chatbot over the command line, what is next work, and seeing whether or not it can answer us. So let's ask that command now. And actually, you know what? I'm going to hide the command so that you can't see it right away. Oh, there we go. So here I'm going to ask our chatbot over the command line, what is next work? And then when you press enter, you might wait a few seconds. And then eventually, you'll see that from the command line, your chatbot knows how to give you the answer. Here, our chatbot is telling us Nextwork is an organization that provides projects and resources for learning and development with the goal of helping people find jobs they love. Not bad at all. So this is our end goal here. And there's also a few secret missions that really levels up your CLI skills and Bedrock skills. But we'll wait until those secret missions start to get there, yeah? In the meantime, I hope you are just as excited as I am, as we'll have a read of what this project is going to be about. So as you would have seen just now in my quick demo, we're going to say goodbye to relying on the AWS Management Console, because we're going to learn how to chat with our chatbot over CLI commands instead, like what I just did. It's a really, really big step to learn how to do this, because as exciting as it is to be interacting with this visual interface, knowing how to interact with your tools over commands is a huge step towards eventually integrating those tools into your own applications. You know, say if this series, your end goal across 3-4 projects is to eventually integrate your own chatbot into your own application, you're going to need to be comfortable with those commands. And that's how learning the CLI and learning what I just demoed there will get you there. We'll get you towards like being very comfortable with creating your own app and putting your chatbot in there. And a big shout out to Ariana. Hello. Ariana says hello. I'm so touched. Good to see you. This project is really great for building your skills towards roles like backend developer and DevOps engineer, because you will definitely be working with tools over the command line. So in this project, let's get ready to set up your own chatbot in Amazon Bedrock. And then we're going to talk to that chatbot using commands, and we're going to be using CloudShell today to run those commands. Then for our secret mission, we're going to go beyond just talking with your knowledge base or the information you want your chatbot to know. We're going to just talk with entire AI models from the terminal, which is kind of like saying you can now use ChatGPT from the terminal. Pretty cool. All right, so as always, our project demos use the high touch mode. So we'll be going through every single step together. The link to this project guide is in the description box, so check it out there. And you know what, I might just update this to say the project guide is in the description to make it easier to know. Project guide in the description. So that you can click on that link and get access as well. Shout out to Bhaskar as well for saying hello. That's so sweet. Appreciate it. All right, team. So let's jump into that first step. Okay. If you'd like a recap of what we're about to do today, this is a kind of a summary of what we did in that first project. You would have learned how to set up a RAG chatbot, and you would have done it for the first time in the AWS Management Console. But this project is about using that chatbot over the terminal instead of the console. Again, like, the reason why this is so helpful is because it helps engineers run commands much faster. It eventually lets you script and automate repetitive tasks. And of course, it gives you more control. You're about to see all of this in action because we're about to interact with Bedrock over the command line, and notice that it really gives you more control and more configuration options. Okay, I know I've referenced the first project or the previous project multiple times now, but you don't actually need to do that for this project to start this one. We just highly recommend it because you would be going through like a slower step-by-step guide for setting up that chatbot. We explain each of those settings in a bit more detail, and you also get to talk with that chatbot within a chat interface, which is a lot more approachable than talking with it over the command line straight away. Totally your choice. You can start with that first project or jump straight into this one if you're up for the challenge. Okay, so how in the world are we going to be building our solution today? So here is a little diagram of what our solution is going to look like by the end of this project. First, we're going to go into our S3 bucket, so we're going to go into Amazon S3 to upload the documents we want our chatbot to know. As a recap, RAG chatbots, which is the kind of chatbot we're building today, RAG chatbots are amazing for answering questions based on knowledge you give it. Instead of going into ChatGPT, where you know there's been a bunch of training data, it can search online and it already knows a lot of things. RAG chatbots only know what you want it to know. So you will upload documents that contain the information you want your RAG chatbot to know, and it can only answer based on the information you've given it. So if you don't give it any information about the weather, if you don't give it any geographical information or information about basketball, and insert random topic, if you were to ask that chatbot a question about said topic, it would say like, I have no clue what you're talking about. Which is the reason why when we're starting this project, we're going to start by figuring out what we want our chatbot to know, and we'll set up that knowledge by uploading some documents. And then once you've uploaded those documents, we can go into step 2, which is about creating a knowledge base. And this knowledge base is about processing the information you've uploaded. Now that you've given it, let's say, heaps and heaps and heaps of information, how is your chatbot going to process it and know the information that's inside? You will have to create a knowledge base, which is kind of like your chatbot's librarian that knows all of the information the chatbot's supposed to know and can serve the right information to the chatbot at the right time. Then we have our AI model, which is what we're going to do in step 3. And this AI model is all about converting those search results from our handy little knowledge base here, converting all of those search results into a nice chat response. Because there's 2 different ways your chatbot can actually answer a question. When you are asking a question about, let's say, what does Bedrock mean? Let's say we ask our chatbot that question, what does Bedrock mean? Your chatbot could actually respond by just giving you paragraphs of text that's relevant to your question. Oh yeah, here's a paragraph about Bedrock, here's a paragraph about Bedrock. And all of those paragraphs of text are taken directly from the documents. No synthesizing, no processing. Let me just give you the raw data that's from your source documents. But that's a bit overwhelming. What if you just wanted your chatbot to explain what Bedrock is in 1 sentence, in 30 words, or just give me like a more conversational way of responding to my question? That's where the AI model comes in. The AI model is responsible for translating all of these results from your knowledge base into a more cohesive text response. It's the reason why ChatGPT sounds like it's talking to you rather than just like spitting like lots of random information for you to process yourself. And then the star of our project today is the AWS CLI and CloudShell, which is what we'll be focusing on over steps 4 and 5. So this is where we try to talk with our chatbot over the CLI, using CLI commands. So you can think of it as 2 different parts for this project, because part 1, we're setting up the chatbot itself over here. And then part 2 is about chatting with that chatbot over the terminal over here. I hope that plan for today's project is clear, and then we can recap it right here too. Sending lots of love to Ariana. Thank you so much. This AI project really got me hyped to go for the AI practitioner. I also love the new feature for changing colors in the documentation. That's so sweet, Ariana. Thank you so much. I can't wait to see what colors and what kind of documentation you get to share now. And yeah, referencing what Ariana's mentioned here, over just yesterday, we released a new feature where you can download documentation that's in different color themes. There's a fun theme, there's a dark theme, there's a light theme, the normal theme. And this is a kind of like the, let me show you to anyone that's keen and interested. This is what your dark mode documentation could look like at the end of this project. And this is what a fun mode documentation could look like at the end of this project. And yes, we'll be creating this documentation as we go in this project. Except the topic, of course, is different from what I'm showcasing right now. It'll be about interacting with your chatbot over the terminal, which is going to be fun. All right, thank you, team. So in this project, we will set up a RAG chatbot. We will set up a RAG chatbot and interact with it over the terminal using commands, using CLI commands. We're doing this project to learn how to interact with our RAG tools programmatically instead of relying on the console. I would say like this. And overall, you can even mention that this works your way towards integrating your own apps into integrating your chatbot into your own app as well. Well done. How good. Okay, so now let's dive into step 1. So let's set up S3 and our data. We need to set up the information we want our chatbot to know. That's as simple as that, and that is the reason why we're going to be creating an S3 bucket and uploading some documents inside that our chatbot is going to learn from. In this step, we will create an S3 bucket and upload some documents inside. We're doing this. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to set up the information we want our chatbot to know. Later in this project, this information will be synced so our chatbot can answer questions about it. Great. Okay, so finally we're gonna jump into some AWS console time. I know you've been waiting for this, so make sure to log into your management console as your IAM admin user as I have here. And once you're logged in, first thing before you jump into any service is to make sure you're in the right region. We're going to be picking the Ohio region today. So if you click on this region drop down, let us go for the Ohio region, which is such a good option because it gives us the features we need for this project. Other regions, from Sydney, Tokyo, and even I think most of Canada and Europe, other regions are less likely to have all of the advanced AI models we want to use and all of the Bedrock features we want to use. Oregon is actually another option. Oregon's low-key even better because it has even more features, but we actually just want to keep our feature set pretty nice and simple. We just want all the things that we're going to use without looking and getting distracted by all the other bells and whistles that Bedrock can give us. And that's the reason why we're going with Ohio. If you want the full feature set of Bedrock and all of the AI models, then you can go for Oregon. Hope that helps. So pick Ohio, all right? And big shout out to Amber. Thank you so much for mentioning that you love the new layout. That's so cool. And we also have Timtmo AI Studio. Wow, cute owl saying hey. Hello. If this is your first project with Nextwork, I hope you enjoy and I hope you learned something new. Okay, so you've picked the Ohio region. So let us now go into our S3 console to create our bucket. All right, so in the S3 console, there's a handy little create bucket option here. So we're gonna click on that. And we're gonna set up our bucket straight away. I love creating an S3 bucket for this project because the setup is so simple. Literally the only thing you need to change here is the bucket name. And S3 bucket names are unique. Please make sure your bucket name is unique by putting in your initials here. Okay, so if your initials are Ariana Gonzalez Vidal, then you go Ariana Gonzalez Vidal like this, okay, to add your initials. And making it unique is what helps S3 to make sure that when you upload your documents inside your S3 bucket, it goes to the right bucket. The reasoning for bucket names being unique gets pretty deep. So if you'd like, you can always highlight something like for bucket name and ask, why do bucket names need to be unique? Why? And then you get a little explanation. You can even highlight this note and say, explain more if you want more details. So I hope you enjoy using, this full feature set that a Nextwork project can give you. And in our case, we also know that we can skip all of these setup for your S3 bucket. We don't need to care about any of this because these settings, the default settings, are basically here to help make sure that your bucket is secure and everything inside is encrypted. That sounds great with us. We don't need anyone else to access our bucket except for our knowledge base, except for Bedrock, which we'll set up later on as well. So just create the bucket straight away. And while that's creating, Lyrics Unplugged says, I just wanted to take a moment to sincerely appreciate your efforts in teaching cloud and AWS on YouTube. Your way of explaining complex topics is such a clear and structured manner. Thank you for sharing your knowledge so generously and helping so many of us grow in the cloud domain. Your work is making a real impact and I'm truly grateful for it. Keep inspiring. No way! No way! That's amazing. Thank you for taking the time for sharing your love for these projects, for Nextwork. It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. And a big shout out to the entire Nextwork team. The amount of feedback and iterations and just our constant inspiring of each other to get even better. That's the reason why these projects are so cool, so good. So thank you so much to Lyrics Unplugged. That makes our day. I'm gonna frame this up and show it to the whole team. And we are live, by the way, to the person that's asking. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've created the bucket now. And what's left to do is to just upload the objects inside. And then you're done with step 1. That was fast. So let's upload our documents now. This is where you can honestly take a lot of creative freedom around what you want your chatbot to know. Do you want your chatbot to know all of your favorite recipes, so it can always just tell you what you should cook today? Do you want your chatbot to store your notes for something that you're learning? Do you want your chatbot to have all the lyrics to your favorite songs, or know just a bunch of like really cool, memorable quotes so it can just give you one every single day? Upload whatever documents you want your chatbot to know. But if you're feeling like, I just want to play with this, I just want to give me something to upload, we got a zip file for you right here. So click on this link, and it's going to download a zip file with 10 documents inside that you can upload. And we'll just upload it straight in there. Cool. Thank you so much. So open up that zip file. Okay, we're going to open up that zip file in our downloads folder. Ooh, please open. Okay, so we got our zip file open now. And once you're inside, you can double check that there are 10 documents inside, which you can actually select all like this and drag straight into, your S3 console, your upload page. Or you can click on Add Files here to find it, and then select all, select open. It's all up to you. And then you can click Upload to upload all those documents inside. Okay? Cool. With that, we've just finished step 1. We've just set up the knowledge that we want our chatbot to have. So to set up our knowledge base, we used S3 to store the documents, i.e. information we want our chatbot, brag chatbot, to know. The documents we uploaded contain information about Nextdoor projects, which is true. If you wanted to have a look at what's actually inside the zip file, it is just documentation on documentation, different kinds of documentation for different projects. Yeah, if you have a spare minute, you can check out these pieces of documentation, and hopefully it inspires you on another project you might want to do later. And I'm just gonna quit this. Whoa, so we're back here. Great, everyone. I'm very, very excited to be going into step 2 now, which is on creating the knowledge base. Great work setting up the S3 bucket. So far, we just have some documents stored somewhere, and now we need our chatbot to understand and process that information. So that's where your chatbot's knowledge management system, called the knowledge base, comes in. We're going to create a knowledge base that helps your chatbot understand and process the documents you just uploaded. So shall we create that knowledge base here? Really, it's really hard to give like a great analogy for knowledge base, because you can be like, oh, it's like a librarian that knows where the right information is. And I think that is probably the closest that I can get today on what is a great analogy for the knowledge base. It's easy to assume, okay, side note for the experts, it's easy to assume that your knowledge base is the storage place for all of your documents. But it's not. Like, as we just saw, we actually stored our documents in S3. So you can think of your knowledge base more as the connector between your chatbot and the information it needs. It doesn't actually store the information inside. It's more like it just connects you to S3. And it also connects you to another service that stores all of the process data, which we'll see in a second. In this step, we will create a knowledge base in the Bedrock console. This is because we need our chatbot to read process and understand the data in our S3 bucket somehow. The knowledge base, which is also called a K-base, is will connect our chatbot to the information it needs to answer questions. And thank you so much, Harsha, for some of these suggestions about how we can display projects in an Xort app. Really, really appreciate it. We will look into this, Harsha, I promise you. I'll just be continuing with the project now. But I am looking at your comments and your suggestions. Thank you so much. And we got Marzena in the house. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to see you here, Marzena. You're such a pop of joy. Thank you for coming along. Bhaskar says, can we get access to the research paper documentation? Wow, what research paper are you looking to get access to? Is it the documentation I'm using here, the one I'm scrolling through right now? The link to that is in the description. Okay, so from S3, we're gonna open the Bedrock console in a new tab. And let us click open a new tab. And here we are in Bedrock. So if you're new to Bedrock, just know that Bedrock is an AWS service as well. And it helps you with using AI models to build Gen AI apps. In our case, we're using Bedrock to build a RAG chatbot. And that RAG chatbot needs to know how to answer questions about our documents. Okay? So that's your little recap of what Bedrock does. You can think of Bedrock as this marketplace with lots of AI models. And then on top of that marketplace of AI models, and as a marketplace, that means you can just go into Bedrock and shop around and find AI models from all different kinds of providers. OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, there's even more. Well, there's like so many different providers that's in that marketplace. And it's all in one place. No more having to go to different kinds of providers' websites to sign up, create a login, put in your credit card details, and use their model. You can just, one place to access all the models is basically what Bedrock is good for. So on top of this amazing marketplace, Bedrock implemented features for you to play with those models right away. So, now that you have all these models in one place, one SOS call to everyone that's watching this live stream right now. If you can hear this, let me know. I'd love to know whether or not we're back live. Thank you so much in the meantime to Marzena, to Timtimol AI Studio, to Ariana for letting me know it's all good that we dropped out. Our internet connection went down for a second there. But I'm really glad to see that we're back on. So where we were just now was we were in the S3 console and we were going into Bedrock and we were talking about what Bedrock does. I've just confirmed that all of my PDFs are still in my bucket, so that's good. And now I can go into the Bedrock console for reals this time to access Bedrock and create our knowledge base. I'm going to pause for a cute little second here just to make sure that we're still live. So if there's anyone that's watching this right now, let me know if you can see this. And I'll also confirm on a separate tab in the meantime. Okay. Cool, I think we are back live, so thank you everyone for waiting. Okay, and thank you so much Lyrics Unplugged and Shubham, that's so cool. Appreciate it. All right, so now that we're here in the Bedrock console, let's get back into it. I appreciate everyone's patience with that little hiccup just now. And we'll go into our Bedrock console to find the knowledge bases feature. Okay, this is a builder tool. called knowledge base. And this is where you can create a knowledge base from scratch, and we'll create a knowledge base with vector store, okay? We've talked about vector store in the last project before, and vector stores are basically a special way to store documents, and actually a special way to store information. Vector stores store information based on the semantic meaning of the words in the text. So instead of just saying, oh, let me store all the recipes, let me just store recipes based on the keywords that are in there, a vector store would just store all the keywords in that piece of text, but also some information on what the words mean. So in the future, if you were to ask your chatbot, some words that are kind of related to what information is in the knowledge base, your chatbot will still know to bring that information out. So if you were in the future to search for quick breakfast ideas to your chatbot, and your chatbot has a bunch of these recipes in the knowledge base, the vector store will be smart enough to know, oh, you're looking for quick breakfast ideas. Here's a recipe that says 5-minute morning meals, which is like a similar meaning, but it doesn't use the exact keywords. So a vector store is smart enough to know the meanings of what you're trying to search and then match it to the meaning of what kind of information it has stored inside. Okay, so let us go through the knowledge base setup. Our name is going to be Nextfrag documentation. Give it a description so that you can remember what it does when you come back to this knowledge base. IAM permissions, we'll leave it as the default. And on the data source, we will choose Amazon S3. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly because we've done the setup before in our first project. So if you find this a bit too quick, I would recommend checking out that first project in our series. In the meantime, the key for this project today is about the CLI and the command line. So we're going to get to it as soon as we can. So for the data source, we'll just call it our S3 bucket. And then we'll go into S3 and choose the bucket that we just created. Okay? If you don't see this, you can always click on the refresh button and maybe it'll come out. And if you still don't see it after clicking the refresh button, make sure you're in the right region. Are you in Ohio? Oh. Okay, and then again, we're gonna keep the defaults for all of these settings. No need to overthink it. Parsing and chunking is about how your knowledge base is gonna chop up all of the documents you give it and also find the meaning of the words inside. Actually, parsing and chunking is just about chopping it up, really. Whereas the next setting, the embeddings model, is how your knowledge base is going to understand the meaning of the documents that you've uploaded. So we're going to put in our embeddings model. There's only one, in the Ohio region that we can pick, and it's called Titan Text Embeddings Model, Embeddings v2. So that makes it a very easy choice for us. And the embeddings model is the AI model that is actually responsible for converting paragraphs of text into numbers. And those numbers actually represent the meaning of those words. It is incredible. I think embeddings is its own topic, which is why if you want to know more, we have a whole section on what embeddings actually mean. I'd highly recommend checking it out, if you're interested in knowing more. Cool. So for your vector database, this is basically the database that's actually storing your process data. And we're going to just go for the default again. Okay, hands off. We don't need to click on anything special. Just go for this default database that's going to store all of those numbers, those embeddings that your model spits out. Okay. Next up, we're ready to review. Okay, and once we've reviewed it, step 2 is done as well. So let's have a look at what we can review. Is your knowledge base called Nextfrag documentation? Does it use a vector store? Okay, it really needs to use a vector store to make your chatbot smart enough to understand the meaning of what you're asking and give it relevant information, even if they don't share the same words, the same keywords. Your data source type should really be S3. because that's where we store our information in an S3 bucket. And you can even click here to verify that it's the correct S3 bucket you've linked it to if you'd like. This is optional. But here I can confirm that this is the correct bucket. And I would say you would want to just make sure the chunking strategy and the parsing strategy are using the default ones. And your embedding model is using Titan Text Embedding Speed 2. Okay. Last thing to verify is that your vector store is using Amazon OpenSearch Serverless, which is the default option. And yeah, perfect timing. If you wanted to know more about Amazon OpenSearch Serverless, we have a little explanation here, and you can even ask more. Feel free to always use that ask feature to ask follow-up questions like, oh, so is it a search engine? Is it just a database? What is it? You know what? I might just ask, is it a database? To play around with our ask feature. And it is. It's a type of database. Okay. But yeah, if you like, you can go through this checklist, which also summarizes what I've gone through in the console as well. Knowledge base name, data source type should be S3, embeddings model, vector store should say quick create vector store, and it's OpenSearch Serverless. Good. And you can create your knowledge base now. Ta-da! Great work. What happens now is that Bedrock will set up your knowledge base, and that can take up to 10 minutes. So we don't need to wait the 10 minutes. We can actually do something else while the knowledge base is being created. First, we can answer some questions, and then we can move on to the next step. Okay, so you know what? Let me just take a screenshot of our knowledge base like this and add that to our documentation. And then we'll explain why we created a knowledge base. We also created a knowledge base in Bedrock to process and understand the documents that we've uploaded. Later on, when we ask our chatbot a question, it's the knowledge base that will retrieve the relevant information. If you want, you can add in a bit of spice and says it uses a vector store. And embeddings. Cool. It's still creating, so we can move on to the next bit. As a recap, when you ask your RAG chatbot a question, you need to have your knowledge base to return the right results, but also we need the AI model in the middle here to convert those text responses or those search results into like a real chat response that is easy to understand. So in our next step, we're going to be choosing our AI model. So we're going to be setting up that middle piece that connects everything together. Ooh. In this step, we will pick an AI model in our Bedrock console. This AI model will be responsible for converting our knowledge base's search results into a cohesive, easy to understand chat response. Okay. Aha. I ran into an error there with creating my knowledge base, and that's completely on me. It's because I already have a knowledge base with the same name. You probably won't run into this error if you have not created this knowledge base before. Okay, so I'll just say I'm going to update the name of this knowledge base so that we don't run into that error again. Next rec documentation v2 is going to be the new name. And let me just try create my knowledge base now. Okay, this should work now. If it doesn't, we'll troubleshoot it together. Cool. So from here in your knowledge base page, you can scroll down your sidebar and click on this tab that's called Model Access, and we're going to open it up. Open it up in a new tab, by the way, because you don't want to disrupt the creation of your knowledge base. So welcome to the Model Access page. And this page is all about the AI models that are available in Bedrock and basically getting access to them. We're about to request access to 2 AI models that we're going to need to use for this project. One, as you might be familiar with, is the Titan Text Embeddings v2 model. So that is the embeddings model that's responsible for understanding the meaning of your documents and the meaning of your requests when you ask your chatbot a question. Next, we're going to be using Llama 3.370B Instruct. I know it's such a technical name, but it's really just an AI model. And this one is going to be responsible for converting those chat responses, converting your knowledge base's information into that chat response back to you. So if we were to look at these 2 models, one is actually responsible for managing that movement from here to here. The embeddings model is going to convert all this information into embeddings so that your knowledge base can store all those embeddings in OpenSearch serverless. And then the other one, the Llama model, is responsible for converting your knowledge base's responses to like a chat response back to you. So they kind of sit at different places of this chatbot solution we have. You might already have access to both models because we've done this part before in the previous project. You would have already requested access to these models for the first time. So if you'd like to double check, you would be able to just copy the name of one of the models and paste it here. Awesome. So you would need to actually select the I need to request model access option if either of those 2 models say you need to request it. All right. And we give you the step-by-step guide on requesting access right here. All right. But if you already have access like myself, it means the models are enabled, they're ready to use, and we can get started. Okay, with going back into our knowledge base. Cool. Do we have any questions, by the way, about either of those models? I know this section was relatively quick since I already have access. But if you have any questions, just know we have a lot of guidance within the project guide, and you can always ask it in the chat. Oh, big shout out to David. I am only new to the channel, but I'll catch up one day. Currently making my way through the playlist. Oh, cool. Congrats. That's awesome. All right, so let's head back to the tab with our knowledge base. And as you can see, mine is still creating. I was a bit slow in creating it for the second time. So that's okay. We'll just wait until our knowledge base is finished and it's ready. If you'd ever like to have a different way of double checking, you can right click on knowledge bases and visit that page again. And you might be able to see a knowledge base pop out here first, then in that tab. We'll see though. Maybe, maybe not. Ah, it is. It is available. So, could it be this one? Okay, cool. So, we have our knowledge base here. That's cool. And you should be ready to start syncing your data. So you would select your data source, which is your S3 bucket, and then you're going to select sync here. Okay, so this is the syncing process. And syncing is basically a process that loads the documents in S3 and puts them into the knowledge base. So during this process, your knowledge base is going to literally read all of the documents that's inside S3. It's going to process the documents to understand the meaning of the words inside them. And yes, that's where your Titan text embeddings model is going to be turning all of the text, or like the chunks of text, and adding embeddings numbers that represent the meaning of the text. And then you can store the process information inside the OpenSearch vector database, so the database that your knowledge base is also connected to. Automatically will just store all of the embeddings, all of the process data. Okay, so if we were to just simplify that a little bit more, what is happening in the background now is knowledge base reads your information. Knowledge base understands the meaning of your information. Knowledge base stores a record of your information and the meaning inside a database called OpenSearch. That's all that's happened when you sync it. So you should see a success banner like this one once the syncing is complete. So let's get into it and finish up this step by answering why we needed to sync. Our chatbot also needs access to two AI models, which were the Titan text embeddings model to create embeddings that represent the meaning of my documents, and Llama 3.3 instruct to convert the K-base's results into chat responses. I then synchronize. Oof, we do not have space. That's okay. Our chatbot needs access to two AI models, which were Titan text embeddings model to create embeddings that represent the meaning of our documents, and Llama 3.3 instruct to convert the knowledge base's search results into chat responses. We then synced K-base with S3. We synced them together, okay? And again, syncing basically just means moving the information, moving the data from S3 and into the knowledge base. Cool. Done. Great question from Tim Timol, asking if we need to add more information, how do we do that? That's such a good question. And you upload new information into your S3 bucket, and then you sync again so that your knowledge base gets the new information too. We're actually going to go through that process in a secret mission later. Great stuff, team. So now that syncing is complete, we can now put everything to the test in CloudShell, shall we? Let us start running some AWS commands in CloudShell. And if you haven't used CloudShell before, that's totally okay. CloudShell is a very, very handy AWS service, and it lets you run terminal commands from the console. We're going to use it in action, so if you're new to it, just know you're going to learn by doing. So good on you for doing that. And sometimes when you're using the console, you get really, really, really into the way that things are just in buttons and you can click on it, and that's great. It's easy. But the point of using your tools over the command line is that it really is the more efficient and advanced way of interacting with your resources. Engineers can run commands much faster than clicking through a web app. Engineers can script commands to automate some repetitive tasks. And you also get more control over what you're doing when you're in a command, because there are more settings that you can play with. Fun fact is, the console is actually just a visual way to use the commands we're about to run. When you click on things, click. When you select things, select. What's happening in the background is your AWS Management Console is actually converting all of those clicks into commands. So what we're doing now is we're like, don't worry, console. Don't convert clicks into commands for me. Why don't I just write the commands myself? It's a very, very great way to really understand your resources to the next level. Without further ado, let's jump into the step. In this step, we will open the AWS CloudShell terminal and start running commands. Interacting with our AWS resources like the chatbot we're creating over with commands and code lets us work even faster and gives us more control. It's, like I mentioned in the intro of this project, it's also a great stepping stone towards eventually putting these tools into your own app. First, we'll learn the commands, and then we'll learn how to put these commands into an app. So yeah, let's open up the CloudShell terminal, which you'll notice is actually just this funky little button at the top of your console. So we'll open it up. And while we're waiting for it to run, a quick recap is that CloudShell is just a space for you to run code within your console. Usually, if you want to run commands, and AWS commands specifically, so commands that lets you work with AWS resources, you actually need to install a software in your computer to do it. That software is called the AWS. Double check that you're in the Ohio region, and then we can jump straight into running our commands, okay? If this is your first time using CloudShell, run your first command, AWS version. So put that in here. Oh. And sometimes as you can see my terminal, I'm actually typing something, but it's not showing. And when that happens, all you gotta do is just close it, bring it back up. If it's not working, you can always say restart it. Okay, to restart the environment, and hopefully that lets you type something in. But we're gonna be running a command just to check the version of AWS CLI that's installed in CloudShell. The whole reason for running that command is just to check the CLI, is CLI installed, is it working? So it should be easy as. Aww, doesn't seem to like me very much today. Let's see what's happened. I'm just gonna refresh my tab and see if I can type something into the CLI. Maybe I got logged out. That was why. Great. Okay, now we're definitely in the console. My goodness. But can I type a command? I can. Yay! So let us check for our CLI version number here. And there we go. As you can see, a version number pops up, which just confirms with us that CloudShell is working and you have access to AWS CLI commands. AWS CLI is a software that lets us interact with our AWS resources, services using commands instead of clicks, i.e. the Management Console. To start testing CLI commands, we first opened CloudShell, which is the console's, I would say which is AWS's browser-based terminal, which means it's a terminal that lives in your browser instead of having to go into your local computer's terminal. Okay, cool. And now you have some options. We can use CLI commands now to chat with our chatbot. Okay, you have the tools. You got CLI, you got CloudShell. So next up is to start running some Bedrock commands. Something that's a bit underrated is the skill for finding those commands yourself. You know, how do you know what commands to run? How do you know what command will get you to talk with Bedrock? So you can either explore the documentation to find those commands, or if you just want the commands served straight to you, we have the answer in this tab. I'm just going to close a window so that you can hear me a bit more clearly, and I'll be right back. Okay, great. So let us go for the harder path together and try explore the AWS CLI documentation. Have you seen the documentation before? But this is the home of all AWS CLI commands. And if you're ever thinking, I want to do something using CLI commands, this is kind of like where you can go to find a reference for what command to run. So you know what? Why don't we just search version? Is version going to be in here? Man, version's not even here. Nah, surely it is. So the command we just ran was AWS -- version. And I would love to see if our documentation actually wrote about it. Because usually it's such a simple command that it's kind of like a given. And it might not even end up in the documentation. Anyway, that's all good if it's not here. Yeah, it seems like my internet connection is taking a trip today, so it's not working. Searching for version. Oh, okay, there we go. And yeah, I can see that a lot of different kinds of version commands are coming out, so I might just abort that mission. Because instead of focusing on the version, we're here to focus on Bedrock and whether or not we can chat with our chatbot using commands. So let us, in the search bar, search for a Bedrock knowledge base instead. And let's click search. Okay, you might notice that there are so many search results. So many potential commands related to Bedrock and related to your knowledge base. So your second skill, after finding this repo of documentation, is to figure out how you can narrow down these results. If you'd like, you can go the hard mode and click on every single command that comes up and seeing whether or not it's relevant to what you want to do. The easiest mode is to copy all of this, paste it into an AI model like ChatGPT to say, hey, like which one should I be running? The one in the middle, which we're going to be doing, is to narrow down what you're here to do and then see if you can find the matching command. Remind yourself that you're looking for a command to chat with your chatbot. For the chatbot to chat with you, it'll need to retrieve information from your knowledge base. It needs to retrieve information, and then it needs the AI model to generate the chat response. Do any of these commands look like they might be able to help you with retrieving from your knowledge base and then generating a chat response to reply to you? Lots of different knowledge bases and lots of different AI models you wanted to test. It's going to be so much faster to test like the range of knowledge bases and models using commands rather than having to click around in your console all the time to test like another setup. So let's focus on finding these two values to finish up this command. Okay, so let's shortly. The reason why the screenshot seems to be taking its time is because the internet is being a bit choppy today. Oh, okay, it's back. That's good. And let's report back on what we've just learned. when we first ran a Bedrock command, we ran into an error because we needed to provide values for the knowledge base's ID and the AI model's ARN. While finding the parameters does take extra time, the advantage of using the CLI is the ability to test different setups, i.e. different knowledge bases and models much faster. We can just swap out parameter values instead of clicking around in the console. And this is so true because imagine if you also automate a bit of this and make things easier by saving these knowledge base IDs and model ARN somewhere. So it's a lot easier to just replace those values. It gets really, really quick once you become proficient in like all of these different values you might need to put into your commands. All right, so we're just gonna focus on finding these two values now, update our command, run the command, and see it successfully. So in this step, which is also the final one, we will find the values for our knowledge bases ID, and the AI models ID. Once those values are found, we can run our Bedrock command successfully. Cool. So to replace these placeholders, as you might imagine, it's not going to be easy to try to replace these placeholders within your terminal. So let us copy the command and paste the command into a separate text editor. This can be text. Hello, Nisquali's in the house. Good to see you. Oh my goodness, it's been a while. How are you doing? Okay, so once you have your knowledge base, click into your knowledge base. And then you're going to find that there's a value for knowledge base ID right over here. All right, do you see that? That's our knowledge base's ID. So let us copy it, head back to here, and just paste that to give our command the knowledge base ID. Okay, finding the model ARN is a little bit more tricky because it's not information you can just find over the management console. This is because model ARNs are usually handled in the background when you're using the Bedrock console, so you'll need to run another command in CloudShell to find the model ARN. Oh my gosh, it's Brandon. I always confuse the two. I always think of it as two different people. But yeah, it's so good to see you, Brandon. And we did catch up recently, so I hope you've been having a good few days. And thanks for letting me know that the mic is cutting out. That's a shame. I'm going to charge ahead and just continue with the current mic setup, but if it keeps cutting out in the next few minutes, Brandon, I would love for you to let me know, and then hopefully I can switch up the mic somehow. That would be awesome. News on getting information about foundation models, which is what Bedrock calls the AI models that's inside the Bedrock console. Here you are in documentation land, and I hope you enjoy navigating it to find information. Here in this documentation, we can see that actually, they actually give you some tips on how you can find information like the ARN, okay, to retrieve that information. So we have the AWS CLI way to do it. There's even the Python way to do it. Why do you think the Python way to do it is actually inside the documentation? If you're thinking, oh, is it because that's how you can put these commands in your own application code? Bingo, that is the way. And we'll get into Python in the next project. But for now, let's focus on the CLI way, which is the CloudShell way, basically the terminal way, to get that information. Now, they give us two different commands for us to use. You can either use this base command to just see all of the AI models and everyone's ARN. We don't need that. Or you can choose to use this example one that says, let's get specific information about a specific model. That sounds a bit more like it. We know the model that we're using in Bedrock. It's the Llama 3.3 model. So let's actually pick the second command instead. So as a recap, if you're like, why are we here again? I totally get it if you're confused. As a recap, we're trying to figure out a way to find the model ARN of the AI model that's going to be in our chatbot, basically. And the reason why we're looking for this model ARN is because we need to put it inside this big command that's going to help us with retrieving responses from our chatbot. And where are we going to run this command later? We're going to run this command later in CloudShell, and ideally, within the terminal, see a response from CloudShell as well that answers the question, what is next work? Okay? So sadly for us, if we were to kind of just put model identifier, we do still need to figure out which identifier we're using, right? So Anthropic Claude v2 is not the model we're using. We're using Meta's Llama 3.3. So to find this, we need to actually find another value called the model ID. Let's go into our Bedrock console and click on Model Catalog, okay? Okay, and from here, we're gonna go into our catalog, which is kind of like the marketplace where you can see the details of every single model that's inside this region. And we're going to select 3.370B, which is the model that we're using, to get all of its details. Click into it. And you should be able to see the model ID from here. Okay, like this. So copy that model ID, and you can combine that with this information that you found. So you can put this in CloudShell. Cool. You can put this in CloudShell, delete whatever model identifier was the placeholder, and then let us copy in the actual model ID for the model we're using. Put that in there. Aha, here we are. So congratulations, you have found the model ARN. What an intense journey that was to find the model ARN, but we've got it now. Okay, so congratulations on finding it. And now with the model ARN that you found, you can paste that in here to complete your Bedrock command. So good. You should be so proud of yourself. That was awesome. And once you replace these placeholders, copy the entire command, and you can now put that back in your CloudShell terminal. If you're stuck here, press Q over here in your terminal to kind of force a new line to come out for you to enter a new command. Press Q to do that. Cool. And then you can paste your completed command back into the terminal. Ta-da! Congratulations, look at that. Your terminal, well, not quite. I wouldn't say we have reached the end already, because there's so many cool things you can do now that you know how to use the CLI. To start with, let us just take a screenshot of some cool things that we've done. Okay, so let's take a screenshot of this awesome result that we've gotten. Oof. Let me repeat that command to make it a bit clearer. There we go. Great. Let me copy this, take a screenshot, and put that in our documentation. Next up, what was the result of the command we just ran? Aha. To find the required values, we had to, oh my gosh, we went through a whole journey. We had to visit our knowledge bases overview page in the console and run a separate CLI command to find the model ARN. To find the required values, we had to visit our knowledge bases page from the console and run a separate CLI command to find the model ARN. The Bedrock command ran successfully and showed us a chat response for what is next work within the terminal. Great success, everyone. So you've just learned how to use Bedrock over a CLI command. That is a major milestone. And as a recap, it really is more powerful to interact with your chatbot using commands. It's faster, it's more flexible, and it just gives you more control. So now that we have done, I guess, the biggest checkpoint, which is to even use Bedrock over using CLI commands, what's next for us is to actually figure out, okay, we have a lot that we can explore. For example, you can see here in this terminal that you have a lot of raw text that was retrieved from the knowledge base. This big paragraph came directly from one of our documents that we uploaded. And there's so much output text going. So how can we clean this up a little bit? How can we make that terminal experience a bit more beautiful? So we're not looking at so many results. We're going to be tidying up the terminal response using a variation of our command. Okay, copy this, put it back into your text file. Again, don't forget to replace your knowledge base ID and your model ARN like this. Okay, and this time you'll see that the difference here is that we have this in the command, and this essentially tells your terminal, don't show me all the information, don't show me all the results. I just want to see the text response from our chatbot. We'll see if that works. Let's copy this command again and run this inside our terminal. Again, press Q if your terminal is kind of stuck and not letting you paste a new command. Okay. Cool, look at that. Isn't this a much cleaner response in our terminal? Next week as an organization, and so on and so forth, without having to see like all of this stuff, you know, in the terminal too. It's a much more, I would say it's a much more beautiful like way to query your knowledge base over the terminal. Cool. So the retrieve and generate command, I just realized there's a little typo there, so I'm going to update this. The retrieve and generate command typically also outputs all the raw text and metadata related to our command and knowledge base. To tidy up the terminal response, we added query parameters that gets the terminal to only output the text response from the chatbot. So good. All done. All right, team. Final two things that we can do are some secret missions. First one is the advanced secret mission, and the second one is a mini secret mission. Depending on how much time and how much extra you're ready to do, let us work on a secret mission now. This first secret mission helps you go beyond chatting. You will learn how to use the terminal, so CloudShell, to update your knowledge base. Let us add new data to our S3 bucket, sync that new data with our knowledge base, and then test our chatbot based on the new information. This is something that actually one of the comments earlier in this demo asked about, you know, how can we update our knowledge base? This is how. And we're going to do it over the terminal using commands. Oh, and if you're an architecture diagram kind of person, here's the architecture diagram for that. There's yourself, there's the CloudShell terminal, and then we're going to use commands to upload this document into our S3 bucket, and then use commands to actually query that new information. So we're going to like ask a question, but this time about the new information we upload. Cool. So we'll start the secret mission by asking your knowledge base about something it doesn't know. Let us again copy this code, add that to our text file, and you're going to see this time we're asking some pretty strange stuff. Why did the coffee go to the police? Does our knowledge base know that information? It's not gonna know why a coffee went to the police. What a strange question to ask our knowledge base. So how is your knowledge base gonna respond? Don't forget, it can only answer based on the information you give it. So it won't be able to answer if your knowledge base doesn't have this information. Oh. I just realized that it gave the right answer. It gave us a spoiler. How did you do that? Oh. My knowledge base ID. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. Oh my gosh, I just realized the knowledge base ID I was using was for another knowledge base. It was a knowledge base that we used to test this project, which is why it already knew the information. Ah, that's so embarrassing, team. So as you can see on the source files, this already had 11 pieces of information instead of 10. 10 is the number of documents we uploaded to our knowledge base. So the fact that it says 11 means that this is like the state of our knowledge base after testing it, after doing the secret mission. I'm so embarrassed, everyone. I'm so sorry that I didn't pick up on this sooner. So what we're gonna do is, why don't we just freestyle a new question. Instead of asking why the coffee went to the police, let's freestyle and ask it something that it still would have no idea about knowing. What is something that we can talk about straight away? How about we do a quick shout out to someone that's watching this live and say, who is Timo AI Studio? I don't think our knowledge base would have this information right now. So let's see if it can answer anything related to this. Oh, I think I had a formatting error. So let me try that again. Oh. I ran into a formatting error. Oh. Oh. I see now. Do you see the difference, team? The moment I edited this, Timo AI Studio, something happened in my text file. Watch this area. So this is, I'm gonna go back to how it was before. Do you see this? It changed. And it changed again. This is the reason why I ran into a formatting error. Oh, that is so annoying. Let's see. Oh, it changes automatically. I mean, I'm not too bothered, but I can imagine this being very confusing for anyone that didn't notice this. But I ran into a formatting error because the quote marks changed when I was editing my text file. So let us update this back to the correct quote marks that our terminal can use and upload this command again into the terminal. Let's run this. Do you think it's gonna work? Okay, this time our command works. No more formatting errors with the command. Whew. Okay, thank goodness. And here we are. There's no information about Timo AI Studio in the search results. However, there's information about something else, which is mentioned in a project that we uploaded. Okay, cool. But at least now we have our challenge. How can we get our knowledge base to know about Timo AI Studio, who is this lovely little commenter here in our live right now? How can we get our knowledge base to know about Timo AI Studio? And side note on your question, we can link it with AWS Amazon Lex. You would have to set up Amazon Lex first, and then from Amazon Lex, choose your Bedrock knowledge base. So that's a different kind of story. If you really want to know how to do it, maybe we can set up a project for it. Perhaps. All right. But in the meantime, let's charge ahead in this in our little mission here. In a project extension, we asked our knowledge base about one of the lovely viewers, commenters of this live project demo called Timo AI Studio. We noticed that our knowledge base had no information about Timo AI Studio, about them. So it couldn't provide a response, like a proper response. And yes, Francisco, it is live. Nice to see you here. So what's next in our challenge is like, how can we get our knowledge base to know about Timo AI Studio? To do this, we're gonna have to add some information in our S3 bucket, the data source. The command for it is to use echo. Now, the default command we put in our secret mission is about the coffee and the police, but we're not going to do that. We're going to be adding some information about Timtimul AI Studio. Timtimul AI Studio is an amazing Nextwork student that is tuning in live to a project demo about interacting with a RAG chatbot over the terminal. Okay? So this is facts, you know? This is some information that we know about Timtimul AI Studio. Shout out to you. And we're going to put it inside a file called secret mission text. So that's what this command does. It puts the text that's inside your so that if you ever want to store something temporarily, like we are now, you can. And we can check the contents of the file by running the command here. Now we're going to run a command that says cat, which means read the file that I just put in. So we said read the secret mission text file. And aha, you know, the terminal now outputs this and gives it back to us. It gives back to us the content that we've written about Timtimul AI Studio. Okay, so what's left to do is to upload this new file that we've created from CloudShell, because it's now living temporarily in CloudShell, and we want to put it inside our S3 bucket, our knowledge base's data source. So let's put that in here. The command for that is to do AWS S3 CP, which is like copy. So copy your secret mission text file from your local storage, and let's put it inside your bucket. So this is the S3 URL. So basically the location of your S3 bucket. Now you're probably going to need to edit this command too, because here you need to change your initials into the initials you use to create your bucket. In our case, I didn't actually put in initials, so it'll look like this for me. But if your bucket had Nextwork RAG documentation, you know, ABG as your initials, you're gonna wanna use those initials again. Oh, I see. And by the way, a correction, I see that the storage has gone from 5 gigs to just 1 gig now per region and not per session. So correction to what I've mentioned just there, it's no longer 5 gigs of storage. It's now 1 gig of storage, of temporary storage inside your CloudShell, terminal. And it's 1 gig for each region. Very interesting. All right, so paste that command to upload your file into your S3 bucket. And if I'm not wrong, the command for seeing the contents of your bucket should be called AWS S3 LS, and then the name of your bucket. I'm sure. Ah, it is. Oh, cool. So as you can see, I just ran a command for checking the contents of your S3 bucket. And as you can see, like all 10 files that we uploaded initially, plus our secret mission, is all here now. Oh, great. So good. So what's next is to sync your knowledge base. The contents inside S3, remember what's next. You need to connect that new document into with your S3, with your knowledge base. Okay, so we're gonna start a new ingestion job, which is the more technical term to say syncing. Ingestion job just means you're starting the syncing process. Okay, and we are going to use this command for starting that ingestion job. Let's put in your knowledge base ID in here. And we're gonna have to find our data sources ID, so our S3 buckets ID. To find the ID, You can either use the console or the CLI. So you can choose to run a command to find it. And let's go for the CLI version. Why not? Let's go all the way CLI mode. And let's copy that to find and use this command to find the data source ID we need to put in here. So this command is another special command for just tell me what are the data sources for my knowledge base. Okay, so it's going to come back saying, oh yeah, you do have a data source. It's the S3 bucket, right? And here's the S3 bucket's data source ID. Thank you so much. Let's copy that, put that in this command, and now we have our command for syncing our knowledge base, okay, defined by the knowledge base ID, with our data source, defined by the data source ID. So good. Thank you so much, CLI commands, for making this easy. No more clicking around in the console. It's all happening in here. Okay, so we're going to start the sync process now. And as you can see, it gives us a lot of information in the terminal about what's going to happen in this ingestion job. Okay, the status is starting. And if you can't read the entire output of your terminal, just press that down button on your keyboard, press the down button until you see end. And then when you see end, you can type Q to stop reading and get ready for the next command. Oh, cool. Francisco says, I'm Brazilian, I'm living in Maryland. I understand you super clearly. That's the goal. That's the goal, Francisco. Thank you so much. Cool. So we can see that we've actually started the ingestion job. It has started the sync process. So next up is to check the status of your sync. So this is optional. You can, if you want to, check the status of whether or not your syncing is completed. This is optional because you don't have to check it. It's more like if you want to play around with another command, here you go. Here's your reason for running another command. Let's put in our knowledge base ID, again, your data source ID, and then your ingestion job ID. The ingestion job ID? You mean the one right here? That's true. It is this one right here. Cool. So let's run this command next. Okay. And now that we've run this command, press down, down, down on your keyboard until you can see, the status is now complete. Cool. Thank you for letting me know the status is complete. I am super happy. And now that we've all synced, it means our knowledge base is going to now know who is TimTimol AI Studio. Shall we? We'll take a screenshot of what we've just done and then get into the spicy action of testing our knowledge base's new information. Cool. So how do we update our knowledge base? To add new information to our knowledge base, we ran more commands. We ran commands to create a text file, upload that to an S3 bucket, and start an ingestion job, which basically means syncing. Compared to using the console, this process was faster and, although you do have to find lots of IDs to complete each command. So now that the sync is complete, let us test if our knowledge base actually learned about TimTimol AI Studio. Shall we ask that same question, who is TimTimL AI Studio, and see what our knowledge base and what our chatbot can say now? It tells us there's no information about TimTimL AI Studio. Well, that's confusing. We've even just finished the syncing. So what you can do if you see that it's still giving no information is to first check, are you in the right region? Did you use the right IDs? I think we've used the right IDs. And maybe you just need a little refresh to try the command again. Shall we try? It tells us there's no information. What's happened here? I think we can start by actually going into our S3 bucket. Oh, I think I know what happened. I think what's happened is this knowledge base that we're using is actually using another data source. Yeah, it is. So you know how from the start of this project, turns out the knowledge base I was using had the wrong ID. It means that I have been using a different kind of knowledge base that already knew about the coffee and the police, which is why we talked about TimTimL AI Studio instead. Because of that, actually, we needed to check, which I didn't do. We were supposed to check, okay, so if we were actually using a different knowledge base this entire time, which S3 bucket was that knowledge base connected to? And it was a different S3 bucket. It was an S3 bucket that actually had Amber's initials in there, AW. So this is Amber's bucket, and we didn't upload our information about TimTimL AI Studio to this bucket. We uploaded it to the other bucket I created at the start of this project. So do you know what that means? That means we need to rerun the commands for uploading our new information into the S3 bucket, and then rerun the command for syncing so that our knowledge base can actually have that information correct this time. I'm pretty down to do that. Let's give that a go. Let's go into our commands, find the command for uploading the text file. And now this time, instead of my bucket, we're gonna use the Amber Winton bucket, okay, which just has -AW at the end. And let's try put the file into that bucket this time. So let us try running that command. And you won't be running into this error. It's just that I'm running into this error because I was silly and I used the wrong knowledge base for this project. But if you are just using the same knowledge base, the one that you've created in step 2, you won't get into this error. But I'm just going to show you how I'm going to troubleshoot this in case by some chance you also see something similar. But for myself, my troubleshooting process was okay, if it was really if the setup was correct, we definitely would have seen that our chatbot knows about TimTimL AI Studio. But because it doesn't know, the information must have been stored in the wrong place when we synced it. But now that it's in the correct bucket that's actually connected to this knowledge base, we can start the sync process again. Let's start the ingestion job again. And now we're gonna say, hey, let's sync one more time, but this time you would have the new text file inside the S3 bucket, inside the correct S3 bucket. I think we'll be able to check whether or not the syncing went well. And notice how I had to copy a new ingestion job ID because this is a new syncing process. It tells us that it's complete now, which is good. And now let's ask the golden question again to our knowledge base and see whether or not it knows Timtimel AI Studio now. Yay! And it does! And it does. Our knowledge base does know who is Timtimel AI Studio now. So that troubleshooting went perfectly well. Turns out we just needed to upload our text file to the correct S3 bucket, and there we go. Timtimel AI Studio is a Nextwork student who is tuning in live to a project demo about interacting with a RAG chatbot over the terminal. That is spot on and so correct. Shout out to Timtimel AI Studio. Shout out to Bedrock. Shout out to S3. Shout out to CloudShell. We did that. So to validate the update work, we ran a retrieve and generate command that asks our chatbot about the new information. Who is Timtimel AI Studio? The knowledge base successfully returned the information that we uploaded to our data source and sync. Cool. So this advanced secret mission truly practices some advanced skills with Amazon Bedrock, CLI, S3, something to be proud of. Well done. That was pretty intense. But now that you know the power of the CLI, we're going to finish with this mini secret mission that lets you chat directly with an AI model. You're going to bypass your entire knowledge base, and you are just going to talk directly to a Llama 3.3 model. It's kind of like just talking with ChatGPT in your terminal, in your command line. We're no longer going to give our chatbot the constraint that it has to use information from the knowledge base. We're just going to ask the AI model, what do you know about this information? Or like, what can you do for me? So we're going to talk directly with the AI model. Notice how the knowledge base is no longer in the picture. Let's talk directly like we're talking with ChatGPT. Cool. So this is a mini secret mission, so it's not going to be nearly as like full on as what we just did. It's actually just one command that we're going to be running now. To chat with an AI model directly, you can use this command that's called Bedrock Runtime Invoke Model. Again, you can always check out the CLI documentation to find the details about this command. In the meantime, let's run it. Let's copy it and let's paste it. And it's going to take about 10 to 15 seconds the first time you run it. Oh, that was very fast. But this command will tell Bedrock to use the AI model to run the prompt, write a short poem about cats. See that here? That's our prompt. And then return that response in plain text. Okay, so it might take about 10 to 15 seconds to get your first response. That's completely normal, especially if you're actually far away from the Ohio region. It will take longer for your request to reach Bedrock, and then Bedrock has to go and wake up the AI model, be like, wake up, we got a question, write a short poem about cats. And then your AI model is going to wake up, and it's going to write the poem, and it's going to send it to Bedrock, and then Bedrock has to send that to you. So that can end up taking a bit of time, especially the first time it does it. So you can still see though, we got a little poem about cats. That was awesome, great work. And of course, being able to talk directly with an AI model is so useful if you wanted to be an expert on just general questions that's outside of your knowledge base. Yeah, I love it. I love that you don't have to use your knowledge base information all the time. You can talk to it like any other AI chatbot if you want to. So let's take that screenshot and update our documentation with the awesome news. Okay. On top of chatting with my chatbot, we also interacted directly with an AI model. We also interacted directly with an AI model from the terminal. I think we might actually change that word to via the terminal. So we can interact directly with an AI model via the terminal by running the Bedrock runtime invoke model command. This bypasses our knowledge base and answers general questions. That was awesome! Congratulations! You've just learned how to chat with an AI model directly through your terminal. That is a powerful skill. It lets you access AI models anywhere where you have AWS CLI access. The moment you download AWS CLI into your own local computer, it means you can now talk with your AI model without having to go online and browse on the internet and log into ChatGPT and yada, 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 and put in a question and press enter and wait for the response. You can do it on the terminal, which is awesome. So with all of these skills that we've learned today, we can clean up the resources we created to avoid getting charged for any unused resources. So let us clean up the Bedrock knowledge base, our S3 bucket, and also the OpenSearch vector store that has been storing your process information in the background. So let's head over to the Bedrock console. Select knowledge bases. Oh, and I'm actually here. And then you can delete your knowledge base. While we're waiting, big shout out to Tim Timo AI Studio saying thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, so let's select the knowledge base that you're ready to delete. I'm just gonna delete, I'll just delete this one that we've been using. Select delete and type delete in here. And then once it started deleting, you're ready for the S3 bucket. Let's go into our S3 console. And this was the bucket that we used. So let's just delete the contents from this bucket. And for clarification, like this was the bucket I created, okay? Next to rag documentation. But knowing that we've been using this bucket this whole time, let me just delete this one, delete it, so that we can be very consistent in the things that we're deleting. We're gonna delete the bucket that's attached to the knowledge base that we just deleted. Permanently delete, let's type that in here and delete everything that's inside. Okay, and then we're gonna delete the bucket itself. So select your bucket, select delete. Oh, it says it's not empty yet. Maybe it needs a bit more time to empty. That's okay. Does it need more time to empty? Maybe. Oh yeah, it does say 10 objects. Let's delete all of them. Maybe I rushed the deletion just now. But let's actually delete everything that's inside, not just one item. And let's delete the bucket itself. Delete the bucket. All done. So that's the knowledge base and the S3 bucket done. And then you're gonna have to delete the vector store in OpenSearch. So this is the vector store that's actually storing the embeddings. And we talked about this back in step 1 and step 2, and step 3 actually. so it's good to delete it now. Otherwise, it'll just quietly store all of the embeddings and the chunked information. Way to rack up some bills in AWS. Let's not do that. All right, so while that's opening, I'm just going to quietly close these tabs as well because we don't need any of these anymore. All right, and let's go into our collections to delete this collection. Oof, I need to do better at deleting my vector stores. Let me just delete all of them. And yeah, shout out to Timtimel AI Studio. It was really interesting. Thank you again. I'm glad to hear it, man. And cannot wait to see how we will connect it with AWS and interact directly without the terminal. Oh, without the terminal? You want to interact with it over the console? Let us know. Let us know what you want. But now that the OpenSearch vector store is also deleted, okay, so we followed all of these steps, we can check it off. Now that that's done, let's go through our final reflection and see our documentation. The services we used were Amazon S3, Bedrock for the knowledge base, OpenSearch serverless, AWS CloudShell. And the key concepts we learned included running Bedrock commands, finding IDs using commands and the console, updating an entire knowledge base over the terminal. This project took us approximately 2 hours, including demo time. The most challenging part, I would say, was troubleshooting an error with our S3 bucket. I would say it's also, oh, actually, no, I'm going to take that back. The most challenging part was actually finding the model ARN to go into the retrieve and generate command. It was most rewarding to see our knowledge base answer questions on new information over in CloudShell as well. We did this project today to learn about, not to level up our experience and familiarity with both RAG chatbots, CLI commands, and managing a knowledge base. This project let us do all three in a very hands-on way. We're one step closer towards integrating our chatbot in an app. Great work. So that's a wrap. Congratulations, you've built a very powerful RAG chatbot today. You interacted with it over the command line using CloudShell today. And if you did the secret missions, you would have chatted with the AI models from the terminal. You would have managed the entire knowledge base using the CLI. That is so impressive. Let us finish this mission together. and create some documentation that we can save as a PDF, add to our portfolio, post about on LinkedIn. There's so much we can do. So why don't I actually move this into my main window so you can see it clearly. Okay, so let us download our documentation. You can save it to your portfolio, and we can save our dark theme documentation, for example, into our portfolio. And you can even open your portfolio from here and see our project right over here. Oh, it's taking its time to load. That's okay. While we wait for that to load, we can also save it as a PDF. And why don't we use the fun mode for our PDF? There we go. Our dark mode documentation looking slick, putting together all of our learnings. That is so impressive. And it looks great. And I can see that our fun mode PDF is also just downloaded. So this is the same documentation, but this time with some amazing colors throughout it. Look at that. Whew, that looks amazing. And now that that's in here, we can actually go into light mode if you'd like to choose something that's very, very nice and easy to look at. The focus is going to be on your screenshots and the text that you write. So you have all these different themes that you can use. You can share about it on LinkedIn. So let's open up the LinkedIn modal. And add our cheeky little documentation. Cool? Okay, I think you can see it clearly now. So our documentation gives you a way for you to just post about what you've learned. And if you see that you can't really add your documentation yet, that's because I think this link is blocking it. So take out the link for a second. Now put this in here. Whoop. Doesn't seem to show. Okay, put this in here. And then add your document like this. So again, we're going to call it, you can call your document maybe interacting with my RAG chatbot in the terminal. That can be the name of your document on LinkedIn. And then when that's done, you can hit done and you're all finished. While we're waiting for that to load, I just thought I'd mention, you can see it in your portfolio like this, but what I haven't shown yet is the way that it sits amongst all of your other next week projects. Doesn't it look so cool? Look at all these projects we've done together. And it's nice to add a new little tile for chatting with your bot in the terminal. That was so much fun. Okay, let's hit done. And you can hit post right afterwards. Congratulations on completing another project. A huge, huge, huge shout out to learning something new and also putting in the work to do it hands-on from the get-go. We'll see you in the next project where we actually start to bring this into our own app and run that app locally as well. It's going to be very exciting. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all of the amazing energy, and we'll see you in the next live. Bye.